back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to do a Booktube SFF Babbles, which is the series of video discussion topics that we are going to be doing throughout the entirety of the Booktube SFF Awards. If you don't know what the awards are, I will link you my announcement video where I explain it all, but we've already had the shortlist announced, we've already had the nomination period. Now we're into the good stuff. We're about to start doing all the read-alongs. In fact, the March ones have already begun because March has started, and there are loads of discussions going on in the Goodreads group, so if you want to head over there and check them out, please do. We've also got something really exciting happening, and that is giveaways. So if you fancy a chance of winning various different books that we are reading in the month of March, then all you've got to do is check out the links down below. Each of those will take you to a Rafflecopter page where you can enter giveaways. Please note some of the giveaways are country specific, so they'll be either US or UK only, but there are some international ones, so do check which ones you can enter. If you don't already own them, then definitely go and check out the giveaways, which, as I say, I'll link below. So that leads me into the Booktube SFF Babbles topic, which this week, it was hard, like really hard. You guys know that science fiction and fantasy is my genre, I love them. It's so hard to choose just 5 favourites, so I've cheated. I've gone for 6, mainly out of fairness, but also because the 6th book 100% deserves to be on the list. Actually, I don't really have an order for most of them. I have my number 1, which you guys can probably guess if you have watched my channel for any length of time, but the rest of them I would say are on an even playing field. I love them all so much, and I don't know if I could choose between them, so I'd recommend all of them. So I've only chosen one book from the series, my absolute favourite book in that series. So let's start off. The first book I have to talk about should be no surprise because I think it was on my last science fiction favourites Babble video, and that is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is by Becky Chambers. I don't have my physical copy as my friend has it, but I love this book. It's about a young woman who joins a crew in space, and they are going to go and create a wormhole in a very faraway place. So it follows their journey to get to this extremely faraway destination, and we see the crew interacting with each other. We see the different alien races coming together, fighting and loving one another, and it's just beautiful. It's got some really interesting discussion that takes place in the book, and it's also a really smile-worthy book. It makes you smile, it makes you laugh, it makes you want to fall in love with the characters, which is something amazing and something I definitely require for a favourite of mine. So I just think this is a beautiful, lovely and absolutely heartwarming story, and if you like the sound of that, I don't doubt that you would like this book, so definitely check it out. That's on my favourites. Next one on my favourites is also kind of a sci-fi, I suppose. Maybe it's borderline, it's definitely like fantasy and sci-fi, I'd say, and I've chosen book number 4 in the Otherland series, which is by Tad Williams. This series, the books are immense, and I mean that. This one is probably one of the longest books I've ever read. It's 1,260 pages, so it's definitely long, but if you can get through the first book, which is slightly difficult in terms of just dropping you in and not really explaining things until the very end, and then book 2, if you can get through that and you don't mind a long read and a really immersive read, you'll love this series. Basically, it's set in a world where there are essentially 2 worlds, because we have reality and then we have virtual reality, and virtual reality in this story is at a point where it is incredibly immersive. You can go into VR for a very long time, you can live there, and you can basically have a suit that feeds you and keeps you going on the outside, so you can essentially just stay there all the time. We follow quite a few different characters from all over the world. Each of them is very individual, each of them has different personality traits, quirks, interests, but one thing that they do all share is that they have something that went wrong with VR, so some sort of person in their life who may have been drawn into the VR too far and possibly vanished or had something terrible happen to them. this is the theme that ties most of the people in this story together, and as the books go on you uncover the mysteries of what really has been happening to these people who seem to be getting lost in the virtual reality. It's incredible when you get to book 4 and you see the payoff. The payoff in this series is incredible, and I think it's one of the best series enders I've ever read. It's just so awesome. There's so many things that are set up in this series because the books are so long that you kind of think, how is he ever going to be able to wrap this series up? But he does, and he does it excellently in book number 4. So I really advise slogging through book 1, which I only gave 3 stars, and then going on to 2, 3 and 4, which instantly racketed up and got, I think, 5 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. So definitely a series I love, but particularly this book because of how much satisfaction I got from reading the end of this book, and I never felt like I wanted more. It was just all contained in this read, so I love it. I would recommend this series so much, but be aware, first book is slightly difficult. Next up I have Ascendance Right, which is another book number 4, and this is by David Hare. This is my favourite book by him, I think. Again, it's a series ender and it really wraps up the series very well. This is a world where we have 2 different continents who are separated by a very tumultuous sea which cannot really be crossed in boats, and so what we have is a bridge that every 12 years will rise above the water because of the tide, and it will allow a crossing between these 2 continents, which obviously sparks war and trade. And we follow a huge cast of characters, kind of not dissimilar to Game of Thrones level of characters. There's a lot of them, and each character is in a different part of the world, and some of them intersect with one another, and there's a lot of really interesting magic in this. This book definitely takes influence from both Eastern and Western cultures. The author himself is from New Zealand, so he has very good experience with the Eastern world, but also with the Western world, and so he is able to weave these 2 seamlessly together into a fantastical version of craziness, which is just so exciting to read. I think there are some fabulous characters within this story, and I think the way that this series wrapped up was excellent. However, it does leave it open for another series which I have just started reading and I am loving. So definitely well worth picking up this series right now, because there is a new series that is set after this one about to begin. Next up I have a short story collection, and this was very hard for me because there are 2 short story collections that I read last year and loved, but I have gone with Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. This is just incredible. The short stories that Ted Chiang comes up with are moving, beautiful, emotional, raw, energized, full of passion, full of life, full of really incredible, unique ideas, and they're all science fiction and fantasy focused. He's quite an analytical person, so there are some really intense, detailed stories, but then there's also some really visionary, imaginative, beautiful, expansive stories that just blow your mind with the imagination and the scope. And so I think this is kind of a little bit of everything. If you like really meticulous details and gritty things, then you'll get that in this, and if you like really sweeping, beautiful, fantastical things, then you'll get that in this as well. And he's very good at doing relationships with people. He's very good at descriptions of places and such, and all in a very short amount of pages, which is always incredible. So I definitely recommend this, and I just think it's so wonderful, and it's kind of a must read for me. If you like science fiction and fantasy books, this is the short story collection you should read. I did choose between this and The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. That's the other one I would definitely recommend, but I think this one just like slightly picked that one to the post for me, but I love them both so much, and I'd recommend them both incredibly highly. Next up is this one, A Little Knowledge by Emma Newman, which again is the 4th book in a series. I seem to be on a pattern. I guess because a lot of series end on the 4th book, it seems like the book where things come together. However, this is not the end of the series. This is actually just the book that it's up to right now, and I love this book. It's set in a world where we have fae and humans, and we have these quite old, very powerful fae lords who can control and manipulate all sorts of people, be they fae or human, from behind the scenes. We also have things like courts of people who have strange magics, and we have sorcerers, so there's definitely a lot of magical stuff going on in this. What I love about this series though is that it's not afraid to discuss things like abuse and mental health and issues that don't really get discussed that much in a lot of epic fantasy. This is an urban fantasy. It's kind of set in our world, but also the fae. Maybe it's more of a portal fantasy. Whatever it falls under, it's incredible, and I just think that it's a really, really, really breathtaking series. By this point in the books, I was utterly hooked into the story. I was just gripped by it. It's very dark, it's very twisted. It's certainly not one to read if you are not okay with rape, because that is in these books. But if you're okay with that and you like sort of manipulative, twisted, dark characters, then there's a lot of them in this story. And there's also some really great moments of feminism, and it's so good. It's everything I kind of want wrapped into one, and it's a very short, fast read, so any of that sounds appealing, I would highly, highly recommend checking out this series by Emma Newman. She's amazing. And of course, a book that really doesn't need a whole lot of talking about because I talk about it all the time, my number one favourite book is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. Of course it is, because this book brought me to tears so many times, and it wasn't just like one single tear dropping down my face. No, it was like bawling, crying, emotional, something I don't really get with books. I've never had anyone but Robin Hobb do it to me. It's just emotional. I have never reread this since reading it, even though I want to, because I know it's going to be such a raw journey to reread Fitz's story. This is the 9th book in the series, so it's the 9th book in the Realm of the Eldlings. It's the 3rd book in the Tawny Man series, which is the 3rd trilogy of the Realm of the Eldlings. I love all of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Eldlings books. I pretty much love all of her books because I've read The Soldier Son and things too. But this book was the one that initially just broke my heart into pieces, left it shattered on the ground. By this point, you are 9 books invested in this character, and you are in love with him. I mean, I was. Not in a romantic way, but in a way that he is someone that I care so deeply about, and I care about his story, I care about what happens to him and who threatens him and everything he has to encounter and go through. It's horrific. I mean, Robin Hobb is not afraid to terrorise her characters and push them to every limit, and she does that many, many times. And this book is just the epitome of that. It's Fitz being broken down and trying to make himself back up, and whether he'll succeed or not is all part of the question. But then you also have the magic, you've got dragons, you've got kind of crazy magic where you can talk to animals. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, but the real thing for me with Robin Hobb is always characters, because she does them so, so well, and I would definitely recommend her above all other writers for characters. She makes them real, and I can't say any higher praise than that. But this series is great, and if you want to know more about it, I've done reviews of pretty much all the books in the Realm of the Eldlings series, so go and watch some of them. So that is it. Those are my favourite fantasy books. It was supposed to be 5, it ended up 6. I think that's pretty damn good, considering I have shelves and shelves of books that I could have mentioned, and so many of them I love, and I wanted to include about 50 books on here, but I couldn't, so I went for 6. So let me know in the comments down below if you have a favourite science fiction or fantasy book and why it's your favourite. Also, if you have done a Babbles video, then please link it to me, and if you haven't got involved with the Babbles yet, there is still plenty of time and there will be more topics coming up, so I will link the Goodreads group where you can find out the schedule if you would like to make your own and join in. Don't forget to enter the giveaways. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up
a book, then come back and chat with me again.